All right, let's get this webinar started. Hello everybody, my name is Zach Evans and I hope you're having an awesome week because today I'm really excited about our training. We're going to learn how to cut your piano practice time in half and double your results using accelerated learning techniques, right? Ways to learn piano faster, work smarter, not harder, and get more out of each minute of your practice time. Now, most beginners, or a lot of beginners, have these problems. First of all, nobody has a lot of practice time. Everybody is busy, and so sometimes the solution isn't to find more practice time, it's to take the practice time you already have and get more results out of it. Squeeze all the result juice out of each minute of practice time. A lot of people also get stuck, and they think the solution to overcoming these plateaus is just to practice more. And we've all been there when we've been practicing something over and over and over, and it just doesn't seem to work. This is going to solve that problem for you, show you how you use different strategies to get around obstacles and around plateaus. This will also solve your problem if you're very unmotivated to practice sometimes. What this will do is systematically put in goal-setting systems that will allow you to get results faster and stay motivated longer. And we're also going to talk about the crazy thing I learned when I accidentally recorded my practice session, and the results to me were absolutely shocking. We'll talk about all that and what I call the eyewitness fallacy. And we'll talk about how what you think you're doing while you're practicing often isn't what you're actually doing, and how to solve that issue. And how you can make small changes, what I call leverage points in your practice routine, where you can make a small change and it will get big results. A small shift in this part of your strategy will get a big shift in your overall, what you're getting from each practice strategy, and using the 80-20 rule to get more done in less time. All right, so if you're ready to get started, if you can hear my voice, if you can see my screen, type in ready into the question box. And also I'm going to let you know that I will have this webinar replay available. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to teach, and if you're watching this live right now, you might not get every single camera angle I have going on, but I'm going to have all those camera angles available in the replay. So I will send you that link as well. All right, first thing I want you to do is eliminate all distractions. If you're really serious about taking your piano game to the next level and learning this skill of practicing, we all know we don't do well when we have distractions. So take your phone, turn it off or put it in another room right now, and get in your window and close out of all your other tabs, close out of Facebook, close out of all these other blog posts you're reading. And I want you for the next hour to just commit to learning this one skill and really taking a big step forward in your piano journey. All right, looks like you guys can see my screen, you guys can hear my voice, so let's get started to the meat of it. All right, I want you to imagine what would happen if you could double your practice time or double your practice results and cut your practice time in half. Would it be worth it to take the time to learn that skill? Imagine how it would manifest over a year, right? A year of practicing. Imagine you could get 2 years of results. And not only that, but imagine you're more motivated to practice because you're getting more results, which causes you to actually practice more. So now instead of 2 times the results, you could be getting 2.5, 3 times, 4 times the results in the course of the year. Imagine how much faster your progress is going to be. It's completely doable if you learn a system like the one I'm going to teach you today. So my goal for you is to maximize every single second of your practice time, every minute, every second, every 15-minute chunk, every hour of your practice time, to squeeze the most juice and get the most actual results out of the time you practice. Now, how does this work? Now, this might be seeming maybe too good to be true, or oh, there's no way this would actually work. But I want you to think back to elementary school, because you've probably already applied this concept in your life. You just forgot that you did it. Now, back in elementary school, at some point, you had to learn vocab words, right? You had a list of words and definitions, and you had to learn every single one, or spelling words, or Spanish words, or something like that. Now, when you first started learning them, you did what all of us do, and you tried the learn by repetition technique, which is literally you say the word and you say the definition. You go to the next one, say the word, you say the definition, and you repeat it over and over and over. It's very monotonous, it's very boring, and can you learn that way? Absolutely. You can absolutely learn that way, but it's going to take you a long time. You might spend 3-4 hours on a pretty small list of vocab words just to drill into your system. And on top of that, a lot of times you'll forget it, 2 days after the test anyway. Then what happened is you thought, what if I work smarter instead of harder? What if I figured out a different way to learn them that was faster? And you thought of strategies, or you were taught strategies. You might have used flashcards, right? You might have put all your words in flashcards, and you take the first 5 flashcards, boom, drill. Drill those 5 again, drill those 5 3 times. Now those 5 are done, boom, go on to the next one. Now you drill in the next 5, next 5, and you learn them way faster. Or maybe you learn an acronym or a flow chart or something like that. And now, instead of taking 3 hours to learn those vocab words, you can learn them in 20 minutes. And you've or you could study for 3 hours, but now you know those words like the back of your hand instead of just starting to memorize them. And I'll give you an example. Not only does this help you learn them faster, but it implants them way deeper into your memory and into your long-term memory. And I'll give you an example. If you ever learn the order of the planets, you probably learned this acronym that's "My very educated mother just served us 9 pizzas," or something like that. And how it works, if you know, is "my" starts with an M, Mercury. "Very" starts with a V, Venus. "Educated" is an E, Earth. And literally to this day, I can name the order of the planets, something I learned back in 5th grade. I haven't studied the planets since, but I can still know the order of the planets. And you probably can too, because we used a different way of learning. And there are the same kind of things for piano. Now for piano, it's not flashcards, it's not acronyms, but there are accelerated learning techniques which work similarly to how these work for vocab words. There's a parallel in the kind of piano universe. That's what we're going to talk about today. Alright, so in a little bit, we're going to get to the actual strategy themselves, and I'm going to talk about the step-by-step process. But first, I think it's very important we get a foundation. And I want you to think about learning a song, and actually the steps it takes to learn a song and master it. Now, for each song, if we break it down into sections, right? You have section A, section B, section C, whatever. And for each section, first you have to learn the notes, right? I'm not talking about how fast you know them. You have to learn them right hand, learn them left hand, learn them hand together. That's step 1. Step 2, you have to speed up your playing, right? You have to go from knowing them at a slow tempo to knowing them at a fast tempo. And not only at a fast tempo, but keep the flow there so it's not choppy, you don't make mistakes, it's smooth at a fast tempo. Now step 3, you have to memorize the notes. Now if you're reading music, you might be able to skip this step. You might be reading instead of memorizing. If you're playing by ear, that's a little bit different. You're kind of memorizing, but you're more so, you have it in your head and you're just translating it. But for the most part, for the sake of this argument, we'll say step 3, you have to memorize the notes. And then step 4, you have to put expressiveness, and you have to put dynamics, articulation, that kind of stuff. Now I will say, even while you're learning, you should also be putting in dynamics and stuff like that, but that's not the focus, right? For step 1, you're focusing, just learning the notes. You might put in some dynamics too. You should be thinking about that kind of stuff, but you're not focusing on it. Hold on, my mic just went out for a sec. Alright, so then we're going to talk about, basically, there are strategies that allow you to complete each of these steps faster for each section of your song. Alright, so today, here's what we're going to learn. First, goal setting and song mapping. And that's basically what we just talked about, how to take each of those steps and learn it faster. Make sure we're going to set up fail-safes and a system that will force you to focus on exactly what you need to focus on at the right time. Then we're talking about accelerated learning technique 1, 2, and 3. We're going to talk about 3 of them. There's more than that. I'll tell you how to get access to all the learning techniques, but here's 3 of them I'm going to teach you. Then we're going to go over the biggest mistakes. Please, please, please make sure you watch to this section. If you don't, you could do everything else I'm teaching you right. And there's a lot of people that they don't watch this or they don't learn this part, and they make the same mistake over and over, and they get no results, and they don't know why it's not working. Well, it's because you're making one of these mistakes. And then a special bonus deal. I think that all these webinars, I always have a bonus deal because I want to if you're committed enough, you're actually going to watch this whole thing, even with all these distractions we have in life, and you're going to say, I'm committed, I'm going to watch to the end of this video. I always give a super bonus deal on, something else, that some other piano product I have. Alright, so let's get into it. So first I'm going to talk about the story. of when I accidentally recorded my practice. And after this, we'll get on to the nuts and bolts, the step-by-step process of the goal setting and the learning techniques we're going to talk about. But first, I think this is really important because I was absolutely shocked on what happened by this. And if you don't know me, I have a YouTube channel. I have my Piano Superhuman one that teaches videos, but I also have my Zach Evans YouTube channel, which I have 100 covers of songs I've played in the past. And I've recorded and put on YouTube. And one day, I accidentally left the camera running. I forgot to turn it off. And after I finished recording the song, I had an hour-long practice session. And what I found out absolutely shocked me. I could not believe how much time I wasted. And let me tell you the nuts and bolts of actual numbers. So what I did is I went through the video and I watched myself practice and I split it up into good practice time and bad practice time. Now we'll define good practice time as practicing correctly, right? Not sloppy, but correctly. Slow playing, hands separate, and then gradually working the hands together and gradually working up the speed. That's good practice. Practicing the hard parts that need work, right? Instead of practicing the easy parts over and over, actually practicing the parts of the song that need my attention, the hard parts. And practicing with intent and focus. That's good practice time. Now, bad practice time is playing through parts that I already knew and just running them over and over. We've all fallen into this trap where we kind of just, we play the fun parts, the parts we already know. I've done it a million times. The goal setting strategy I'll tell you about creates fail safes to make sure we limit that time as much as we can. Bad practice time also includes practicing a difficult part too fast when it wasn't ready, right? So when you start to learn and you try to speed it up too fast and it's sloppy and you're making mistakes, that's considered bad practice time. Or trying to play hands together when the section clearly still needed more hand separate work, right? When we do hands separate, we try to put it together too fast before it's ready, and we ended up making a lot of mistakes and drilling in bad habits. Now, here's the results of my study. And what I did is I literally took a stopwatch. And when I saw myself on the screen practicing poorly, bad habits, I would start the stopwatch, and when it went back to good habits, I'd stop. And at the end, I calculated how much time was spent on good and bad. My total practice time was 56 minutes, and this shocked me. I couldn't believe it. My good practice time was literally 19 minutes. Literally, only about a third of my practice of the 56 minutes was spent on good practice techniques. And my inefficient practice time, my bad practice techniques, literally took up 37 minutes, 66% of my practice time. Now, the worst part about this was, there's obviously it's bad that I had a bad practice session. But what's even worse is I thought I had a good practice session, right? When I walked out of the practice room, I thought, oh yeah, I got a lot accomplished today. I was efficient. I was on top of things. And that's dangerous because there's no feedback. I didn't get any feedback on, oh, actually, this went terribly. I need to work on this. And I realized for a long time I'd been practicing this way and not even knowing that I was practicing terribly. And we call this the eyewitness fallacy. And what this is, there's a psychological principle that basically witnesses at the scene of a crime, even when they're trying to tell the truth, when they get interrogated later on, their mind will shift what actually happened, and they will think they're telling the truth, but it's not actually what happened. And basically, what we think we're doing and how we think we're practicing varies widely from what we're actually doing and how we're actually practicing. And once we can solve this gap and realize, okay, we need a system to make sure we're always practicing. We can't just leave it up to, oh, I'm just going to try really hard today. I'm just going to really focus today. You need a system that is going to have fail-safes to make sure no matter what, you are going to practice efficiently, you are going to practice well. That's what we're going to talk about. Like I said, systems, fail-safes. Little points where it says, okay, here's a point that forces me into these good practice habits and literally won't allow me to go into the bad ones. All right, so here's where we get to the nuts and bolts of it. Step one, you need to do what's called song mapping. This is where we create a chart that gives us a pulse on exactly where each section of our song is. So first you break your song into sections, then you create your master list. Now let me show you what this means. So today, for an example, we're going to use the song Clocks by Coldplay. This is one a lot of people are interested in learning, I guess, and I get a lot of requests for it. So here's how you set up your master list. Now this is an example of what a master list might look like halfway through you completing your section. But let's start one from scratch. So let's call this clocks master list. And all you do is you put sections. So each section, you want to break up your song into sections. Each section should be between, in general, 2 to 16 measures long. 4 measures is pretty average for a section length. If it's a very difficult section, make it a smaller section because it's going to take more time to learn. If it's an easy section, you can make it a bigger section because obviously you'll learn it faster, so you can learn more material in the same amount of time. So for this example, let's take these first 4 measures and say this is section A, right? This seems like, for me, a pretty decent section length. So let's say we have A. Now you know this next section, let's say these 4 measures. Now these 4 measures, if you'll notice, are actually exactly the same as the first 4 measures, except for the left hand. The left hand's a little different, but the right hand is literally identical. So I like to label these sections A prime, which means it's very close, but it's a little different. Now you could label this B if you want, it's not a big deal at all. For me, just organizationally, I like to label it A prime, meaning it's like A, slightly different. This next section, if you'll notice, is literally the exact copy of this A prime. So I'll just label this one A prime. And now normally I would write it out, so you'd print this off, write A prime, and then this might be section B, maybe these 3, and onto the next page, up to here might be section B. And you keep going, I won't go through the whole song, you get the idea. But you might have B, C, let's say C prime, D, E prime. Let's say these are your sections. All right, now our ultimate goal, now we're going to set our goals. So our ultimate goal is I will master the song clocks by, and like any SMART goal, you want to have a date. So let's say, I don't know, December 17th. I'm just making up a date, but pick a day that you want to have your goal by. And now, all we have to do now is, remember we said there's 4 phases in the PowerPoint. Learn. You have to learn the notes. Then you have to speed it up. Then you have to memorize. And then power. Well, this is expressiveness. You can call it expressiveness. You could call it, I usually just call it polish, because you can't expression this a part of your song. You can speed up a part of your song. You can't, but you can polish a part of your song. Whatever. This just means the express. Actually, let's just write expressiveness so it's not confusing. All right. So now we know to complete our goal, if we take every section, we learn it, we speed it up, we memorize it, and we add expressiveness. If we learn every section, we will now know the whole song. So now we're breaking up our song into exact sections. And all we have to do is cross off all these boxes, right? Once I learn section A, I'm going to cross off this box. Usually I cross it off with an X, but since this is on a computer, I'll just mark it in green. Once I speed it up, and speed is 130 BPM, that's what it's set at. So speed, 130 BPM. That's our goal for speed. Once I get it up to 130, boom, mark it in green. Once I memorize it, I'm marking in green. Once I add expressiveness, I'm marking in green. And once you get all of these marked in green, now you've met your goal. So basically, every one of these boxes is a tiny sub-goal to completing your goal. And when you say, you probably heard goal setting. It's really important to break your goals down into sub-goals. And this is basically a very efficient way to create, 20, 30 sub-goals really fast and have it a very visual part of the learning process. Now, what you'll do is when you practice these sections, you'll make notes in here. So let's say you practice the first day and you've learned section A, you've learned the left hand, but the right hand still needs work. So you might put left hand done, need right hand. Or you might have to make these a little bigger, actually. So you put little notes, and then maybe the next day, now okay, my left hand's good. So now you can focus your practice time only on learning the right hand, right? You might run through the left hand a couple times to make sure you still have it, but you're going to focus on the right hand. And then maybe after that, the next day, you have both done, so you're right, hands separate, done. So now you just need to put the hands together. So now you don't have to practice hands separate much anymore. You can focus on hands together. Once that's done, mark it in green. Now you might get to the speed goal. Maybe the first day you practice it, you can only get up to 100 BPM. Boom. Now the next day you know, okay, I'm at 100. Can I get it to 130? My goal can now be to get it to 130. Once you get it to 130, boom, now you mark it up. And you do the same thing, and eventually, your goal sheet might look, might have this section might be here, maybe these three are only learned. So now you're like, okay, these sections are behind. I need to focus on these sections, stop practicing these sections. So eventually your master list might look something like this. Here's an example of one, maybe if you're halfway through. Maybe A, you still haven't learned it. B, you've had B at 130 BPM, but it's not memorized. Same with section C. B prime, you have the left hand good, you see. So this is like taking the pulse of your song, right? You know exactly where each section is, exactly which sections need work, and what they need work on. Right? Do I need to work on speeding it up, learning it, memorizing it? And there are specific strategies that are designed to help speed it up and designed for each of these phases. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so now once you've created your master list for your song, let's see, did I forget anything? Let me make sure. Oh, you can just bold this if you want. I like bolding them. All right, so now your goal is just to fill up all these boxes. Now, step 2, you have your song mapped out. Step 2, now you're setting your goals. And every day before you practice, it literally takes 2 minutes, but it will save you so much time. This is a leverage point. By setting these goals right now, you will save so much wasted practice time. And I'm just begging you, don't take my word for it. Just try it out one time. I promise you, if you try it out, you'll see how it works and you'll be that much more motivated to actually do it every time you practice. So goal setting, all we do is we take a section, and then for each section of the song, we have that we're going to work on that day. We're going to set goals. For each goal, we have a strategy to achieve that goal. And then after we practice, we have the results, what actually happened from the practice strategy. Okay, so let's go back here. And we're going to go to, let's pretend, so here's what the goal sheet might look like for day 1. But we're going to make one from scratch. All right, so goal sheet, boom. Okay, so first we want to set our block time. Now the block time is how much time we're going to work on each section of our song that we pick. So, for example, if you're planning on spending 30 minutes practicing songs, you could have 3 10-minute blocks, you could have 2 15-minute blocks, or you could have 6 5-minute blocks. Usually I would say 5, 10, or 15 are the best kind of intervals. I typically use 10 to 15. I think that's usually the best ones to use. So let's say your block time is 10 minutes. And you're planning on practicing, let's say, 30 minutes a day. So that means you can practice 3 sections every day. So let's say Monday. You're going to have Monday, 3 sections, then Tuesday you'll have 1, 2, 3, Wednesday, and you can keep going down. You get the idea. And then for each section, we're going to have first our goal, then our strategy, and then our result. What am I forgetting? We need the section, duh. Forgot to put the section. So we're going to have the section we're working on, and for each section we're going to have a goal, a strategy, and the results. So for example, let's take our master list right here, okay? So first thing we want to do, we want to look at our master list and we want to see what sections need the most work, right? Remember, if we don't do this, we will slip into the habit of playing the sections we already know because they're fun, they're easy. This is how we avoid that. We look at our master list, we get the pulse on our song, we say, all right, section A needs a lot of work. We don't need to practice section E at all. Forget that section. We're going to work on section A, we're going to work on B prime, and we're going to work on D, because D still needs some work too. So we go back and we say, Monday we're going to section A, we're going to, what was it, B prime, I think, and C. Or was it? And D. So these are the 3 sections that need the most work. Now, what's our goal? So let's go back to the master list. Section A, man, we haven't even learned hands separate yet, it looks like. So our goal is going to be learn hands separate. Your goal could be just learn the left hand. You could niche it down even further. Or it could be just learn the right hand. Or it could be learn both hands separate. Now, don't make this goal, oh, my goal is to memorize this section, right? Because we're not at that stage yet. We're still at the learning stage. Don't make the goal get, up to 130 BPM. You're not at that goal yet. So let's take it one step at a time. Now, for B prime, simply look here. Looks like our left hand is good, but we still need to work on the right hand. So our goal right here might be learn right hand. And D looks like we got hands together to 100 BPM. Our goal is 130. So you could say goal is to get 130 BPM. Now, for example, let's say for example our hands together tempo was only 60 BPM. Now, I wouldn't set my goal to 130. That's a big jump. I might say it's at 60 right now. Let's set our goal to 90 BPM or maybe 100 BPM instead of trying to jump up to 130. All right, so now we have our goals for each section. Now we need a strategy to accomplish these goals. And this is what we're going to talk about later in this webinar. So for now, don't worry about it, but you might say learn hand separate. Well, the added note, strategy, is great for learning. It's great for the learn phase. So we might try that strategy out. For the right hand, let's say we might try metronome. Let's try the rhythm strategy. And to get this goal D, we're trying to speed it up. A good strategy for speeding up songs is called the metronome ramp up. Ramp up strategy. And we'll talk more about these strategies later, so don't worry about these right now. And then we just see the results. So at the end, actually, let me do this quick just so it looks nicer. At the results, let's say we practiced section A, we learned at hands separate, we tried this strategy, we practiced our 10-minute block, and we learned at hands separate. So results, learned hands separate. Now we go to our master list. Boom. This one is good hands separate. Now we just need hands. So now tomorrow when we go to this list, we can say, okay, section A, we know hands separate. Let's do hands together next. Then B prime. Let's say our goal is learn the right hand. Let's say we actually learn the right hand in, instead of 10 minutes, it only took us 3 minutes. Now for the extra 7 minutes, we said, hey, let's try to learn hands together. Let's say we did it. So we actually learned hands together. Even though our goal was only a right hand, we accomplished our goal, we went even higher because we had extra time in our block. So now we go to the master list. We have left hand good, we have right hand good, we have hands together good. Now this one is green, and we're making progress towards our goal. Now section D, let's say for section D, we didn't get up to 130. Let's say we only got it up to 120, and we tried to get up to 130, and we couldn't hit that 130 mark. No problem. So at 120, we got it to. Now we go to our master list, and we say hands together is now at 120, right? It's still not at our goal. We can't mark it green yet, but we're making baby steps. We're making progress towards our goal. And now tomorrow, we can sit down and say, hey, I got up to 120. I can get it up 10 more BPM the next day. All right, so now we go back here and we say, okay, here's our results. Now here's an added thing you can do, notes. And usually I only put a note if I had some kind of breakthrough or something that I did really bad. For example, a breakthrough might be like rhythms. Let's say, look for right hand. I learned the right hand in 3 minutes and I learned hands together. Rhythms kills it for learning. And for everybody, different strategies work different. So for you, you might be like, man, this rhythm strategy is getting buckets. Put in the notes. That way tomorrow when you look, you're like, man, rhythm strategy really worked. Let's try rhythm strategies for everything, right? Or let's try it for this really tricky part I'm having because it's working really well. Or you might put something like, lost focus. Lost focus, need to improve. So maybe at some point you strayed away from your goal sheet and you started playing the easy parts. Now you have to say, okay, I'm acknowledging that this happened. So Tuesday you can say, yesterday I lost focus. This time's going to be different. This time I'm going to focus and I'm not going to go on to those easy sections. I'm going to stick with the section I'm working on. Right, so now every day you do this. It doesn't take long. It takes 2 minutes. Just go back to your master list. You see, okay, what parts need work and what specifically do they need working on. So you're not just practicing, you're not trying to memorize something when you haven't learned it yet. You're not trying to do hands together before you've even learned hands separate. And this way will keep you laser focused on exactly what you're trying to learn and exactly the fastest strategy that's going to get you there in the least amount of time possible. This is huge. I really hope that you guys actually sit down and do this. I know some of you are, I know some of you aren't. But I know it works because I've seen the results because I've done it. But I just need you to do this one time, because if you do it one time, you'll start to understand how it works, and you will feel more motivated when you have this checklist right in front of you, and you know, okay, once I turn all these green, I learn the song. It's very motivating once you get into the habit of doing it every day. All right, so now time to the fun stuff. This is where it gets fun. We're going to talk about these actual practice strategies. Strategy 1 we're going to teach today is the added note strategy. Now this works best in the learn phase and the memorize phase. Now this also works in the speed phase. You can also use it in the polish phase, but it's specifically designed and it works the best in the learn and the memorize phase. And there's also a variation we're going to talk about, which is the reverse added note strategy. All right, so let's actually use this strategy, the added note. So let's say you're trying to learn clocks, and you're just starting out, you're trying to learn this first 4 bars, right? You set your goals. This is section A, and you put in your goal sheet, learn A, right? You're using the added note strategy. And your goal is to get it hand set. Here's how it works. You start out at the keyboard, and you take only the first 2 notes, right? E flat and B flat. Actually, let me turn this up. And you practice it 4 times. 2, 3, 4. Next, you add a note. So you do the first 3 notes. Boom, now you do the first 4 notes. You do that 4 times, then the first 5 notes, then the first 6 notes, then the first 7 notes, all the way till you played the whole section. This is a very good way of learning, because instead of trying to learn everything at once, you're literally learning 2 notes. You play it 4 times, so now they're kind of solid, and then you just add that 1 more note. So it's very easy for your brain to learn that and keep it solid and keep it consistent. Now what you can do also is you don't have to learn the entire thing in one swoop. You can say, okay, I'm going to use the added note strategy just for this measure, right? So you just do it 4 times, and then 4 times, do it 4 times, 4 times until you get to the end of the measure. Then take the next measure and start with this measure, and just do, looks like it's a B flat, or D flat, B flat, so 4 times, do it 4 times, then do that 4 times, do that 4 times, and then take the next measure. So it works like that. Now look at this left-hand part. You can actually use the added note strategy on this left-hand part. It doesn't seem like it, but it actually works really well. So you take the first 2 notes. So the first one is, looks like E flat. And then the next one is a B flat minor chord. Right? So you do that 4 times. That's 1. That's 2. You do it 4 times. Then you add 1, 2, 3 notes, and you do 1, 2, 3. Do that 4 times, and then you add this last note, and you do 2, 3, 4. Boom. Now you have this left-hand part learned. Now we're going to talk about the variation. Variation, where is it? Reverse added note strategy. So all that is you do this process in reverse. So let's say you have your 10-minute chunk, right? But you've only spent 4 minutes and you're already done with the added note strategy. So now you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do the reverse added note strategy. So you literally start from the end, take the last 2 notes, so C and A, or A flat, do it 4 times, then do F, C, A flat, do that 4 times, then A flat, F, C, A flat, do that 4 times, and what will happen once you get all the way backward through the thing is you will, and notice you're not actually playing it backward, right? You're not actually playing it this way. you're playing these 2 notes forward, but you're taking the last 2 notes, playing them forward 4 times, then the last 3 notes, playing just those 3, then the last 4 notes, playing just those 4. And what'll happen after you do all of this for the whole thing is, it's like, it just ingrains it so much deeper into your fingers. That's the best way I can explain it. You feel much more confident, and it's a very fast way of learning as opposed to pure repetition. All right, so that's strategy 1. Let's talk about strategy 2. Strategy 2 is chunking. Now, this is a strategy, for one thing, it's almost not even a strategy. It's almost something you just do all the time, and you do it with other strategies. But you also use it as a strategy alone, and it's very good in the learn phase and the speed phase, but you will also use it in any phase of your learning. There's also a variation we're going to talk about, and this is great as a combo strategy, meaning you stack this strategy on top of other strategies. We'll talk about that. You'll get it once I go over the example. So all chunking is, it's simple. It's breaking down your section into small chunks and learning each individual chunk. So your first chunk might be just, let's say, these 4 notes. You do that 4 times. I'll do it slower than that, obviously. And then these next 4 notes, so my... And then these next 4 notes, and until you've learned the entire thing. Now, these chunks can be any length. And in fact, you can almost think when we actually separate our songs into, A prime, B, all that stuff, that's basically chunking for your entire song. But now you want to teach each section and break it into even smaller chunks. Now, then what you can do is what's called overlapping chunks. And what this is, so let's say your first chunk was this whole measure, this first measure. Second chunk was measure 2, third was measure 3, fourth was measure 4. So now you have all these chunks learned, but the problem is you will still have this weird transition between the first and second chunk that'll be sloppy, right? You'll play like this. You'll know the first measure good. You'll know the second measure good. But putting them together, it'll sound like this. Right? You'll have this weird break where you can't, your brain hasn't figured out how to work that transition. So now we simply take overlapping chunks. So we take the end of the first chunk and the beginning of the second chunk, so let's say these 8 notes, and you make that a chunk. So now it's going to be B flat, G, it's going to be these notes all the way to here. So it's going to be... Right? And you just practice that. Practice it 4 times, or you can even do it a little more than 4 times if you want. And then you simply, okay, we also have measure 2 learned and measure 3 learned. Let's practice that transition. Let's create an overlapping chunk. So now we take, from this B flat all the way to D flat, and we practice that chunk. And that's how it works. And what I mean by combo strategy is you basically can combine this with any other practice technique you learn. So the added note, right? We actually did it with the added note. The added note, you can do the entire section, or you can split it into chunks and do the added note on only chunks. So you can do the added note on maybe only the first 2 measures. Or you might do the added note for just this small chunk, then do the added note again for this small chunk, then the added note again for this small chunk. And as you do it more and more, you'll start to get the hang of it, of like how big your chunks should be, because it's going to be different for everybody. If you're more of a beginner, you're going to need smaller chunks. If this is an easy section for you and you're past it, you can do bigger chunks and it'll still work. All right, so that's strategy 2, chunking. Let's go over another strategy. Strategy 3, style variations. This one's very good in the polish phase and surprisingly in the speed phase, and we'll talk about that. And this is actually, we're going to go on the biggest mistakes in a minute. Sorry, I went too fast. This is great. I use this a lot for getting out of stuck places and plateaus I hit. I don't know why it works, but it does. Basically, whenever I have a stuck phase, if I just throw this in the practice session, all of a sudden the next day it's like, it's more in my fingers. I'll show you how this works. So basically, you play this in 4 different style variations. So the first variation is loud. So you play it really loud. So you play... loud, don't get injured, don't, slam down as hard as you can, but play it very strong, play it forte. And you play through this whole section, and you do it 4 times. Next, you play it really soft. So you play. You want to do that, you do the whole section, do it 4 times. Then you play it staccato. So you play. Now staccato is going to be harder because when you play it normally, you have that safety of staying on the keys, right? And you can just stay on the keys and feel them out. When you play staccato, you have to lift off the keys. So it's going to be harder. But what happens is, it's like lifting 100 pounds, then 50 pounds feels easy. Just like if you can play it staccato, when you move on to legato, it's much easier because you have that security. So you're almost going too far so that it makes it easier later. So you do staccato, or you do staccato playing, so you do 4 times through the whole thing. And then the 4th one is legato. So you play super legato and connected. Alright, so those are the 4 ways: loud, soft, staccato, and legato. Now, guess what? If you want to, and this is a little more advanced, but you can combine this strategy with other strategies, right? If you wanted to, you could say, I'm going to take this first measure, use the added note strategy, and use style variations. So you're going to first, let's start out loud, and so the first 2 notes, and then you play them 4 times soft. Then 4 times staccato, and then 4 times legato, right? And imagine if you actually did that for the whole section. Imagine how drilled in that section is going to be. You not only using the added note strategy, but you also practicing all these 4 variations. And this does a couple of things. First of all, it gives you ideas for how you should play it. Like, you probably wouldn't play this staccato. If you've heard the song, it's much more legato. But sometimes having the staccato as if you shoot one way super far on the spectrum, super staccato, then you bring it back and you go super legato, it gives you that whole range to work with. So when you're actually playing the song, you can play it at a perfect level of legato, or perfect loudness or softness. Now, obviously, a lot of times they'll have dynamic markings in here. This one doesn't have any, so you're kind of more free to choose how you want to play it. But the second thing it does is, honestly, this is a great technique. I actually like it better for the fact that it just drills stuff in better. And like I said, this is actually one I use a lot for speed. And a lot of times I'll try the metronome ramp up for a couple days, and maybe I hit a plateau with that strategy. So I'm like, okay, metronome ramp up, I've hit kind of the ceiling of that. Let's hit it with style variations. And I'll do style variations on it. And then the next day it's like, oh man, this is drilled into my fingers. Even though this doesn't seem like a speed technique exactly. Alright, so next we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to get all the strategies. So these are 3 that we talked about, but there's many more. There's actually, my favorite one is the rhythm strategy. I was going to teach it in this webinar, but I teach that in so many of my other lessons as they relate to different things. Like my scales webinar teaches how to do rhythms in the scales. So I didn't include but the rhythms one is probably the best one out there. First, let's talk about biggest mistakes. If you make these mistakes, you could do all these strategies and they're just not going to work. And you're going to get frustrated. So I want to make sure that you don't make these mistakes. First of all, do not just use, oh, I'll just remember it. Instead of what people do a lot of times is they fall into the trap of not writing down their goals and just in their head going, okay, yeah, I'll probably practice section C and E and then, E prime. And what's going to happen is you're not going to stick to it. If you don't write it down, the first day when, days you're really motivated, you'll stick to it. But we all know motivation at some point is going to wane. And at some point you're not going to feel super motivated. So you have to write down your goals every single day. Don't just try to remember it, actually write them down. Next, not using a stopwatch. Here's what a big mistake people use is they say, okay, I'm going to spend 10 minutes on section A prime with this strategy. And what they do is they don't use a stopwatch. They say, oh, I'll just do about 10 minutes. And the first day they do it, and they actually do 10 minutes because they're focused, because they're motivated. Day 2, maybe they do 10 minutes again. Day 3, 10 minutes. Then day 4, they're not feeling as motivated. Maybe you feel a little lazier. And I'm saying this because this happened to me. I'm not saying this, oh, this never happens. Like, I've tried it this way, and it doesn't work. And day 4, you might only practice 8 minutes. Day 5, you might be down to like 5 minutes a day. And the eyewitness fallacy, remember, what you think you're doing is not always what you're actually doing. And there would be days I would go weeks thinking I was working on something 10 minutes a day. And then one day I'd pull up the actual stopwatch and I'd practice and I'd be like, oh, I got my 10 minutes, look at the stopwatch. It'd be at like 5.5 minutes. Literally, I was doing like half of what I thought I was actually doing. So we have to make sure we have a mechanical thing that's going to keep us on track. Otherwise, we're going to fall into those habits of, oh yeah, I practice a lot when really we might not have. And the last thing, sloppy practicing. Now, if you watch any of my other, lessons and webinars, I am huge on if you're playing the wrong notes and practicing the wrong notes, you're literally getting worse at piano. And I know, look, I'm a speed fanatic. I love speed. And I know for me, whenever I start playing stuff faster, it sounds better. It sounds cooler, it sounds more exciting. But what I fall into a lot is I'll start playing it too fast when I'm not ready, right? Maybe you start practicing and you're like, oh yeah, that was good, let's speed it up. And you start trying to speed it up and you make mistakes. And you practice it sloppy. Every time you practice a wrong note, you're literally drilling into your brain the wrong note. You're literally getting worse at piano. So look, instead of trying to speed stuff up too fast and have it be sloppy, where you're actually taking steps backward, let's slow it down and practice correctly. So even if we're taking longer to practice, we're taking smaller steps forward, but every step is a step forward. As opposed to sloppy practicing, where you're taking fast steps in the wrong direction. Let's keep everything forward and your momentum going forward. So if you catch yourself sloppy practicing, look, I still fall into sloppy practicing. The goal isn't to never practice sloppily because it's going to happen to you. It's human nature. The goal is when you start practicing sloppy, you have to catch yourself, and you have to be focused and be setting those goals. So when you get done with that 10 minutes, you say, oh man, I did not practice well. This next 10 minutes, I'm going to focus. You have those fail-safes built into your goal setting process. All right, so here's what I want you to have at the end of this. I want you to have a bulletproof goal setting process and rock solid focus. I want you to use this goal setting process every day when you practice so you can laser in on exactly what needs to be worked on and exactly how to work on it. Then I want you to have these accelerated learning techniques. Now I taught you 3 of them. The added note strategy, the chunking strategy, and the style variation strategy, and a couple variations on those. But there are much more strategies. I'm going to talk about how to get all the strategies in a bit. And I want you to have what I call, I went too far. I want you to have breakthrough plateau confidence in yourself. What I mean by that is when you hit a plateau, if you're like most of us, the first time you hit that in your piano journey, what happens is you'll keep trying to push through it by practicing more, and you keep trying to practice more, when in reality, I want you to have the confidence to know, oh, this plateau is happening. Instead of getting frustrated and just keep repeating the same thing I'm doing, I'm going to try something. I'm going to try the rhythm strategy to get around that plateau. Maybe that doesn't work. Maybe the rhythms doesn't work. I tried a couple days. Okay, I'm going to try the added note strategy. Maybe that works. Maybe it still doesn't work. Even if it still doesn't work, you don't have to get frustrated on your plateaus. You can be creative and try a different strategy to work your way around it. All right, so here's the special bonus deal I have. I have an ebook called Supercharge Your Piano Practice, and this has all the best practice strategies I use. Now, there's a billion practice strategies out there. These are the 22 that I found gotten the best results. Now, remember the 80-20 rule. Typically, 20% of the exercises you do, get 80% of the results. These are the 20% of exercises I found that get the highest results, the highest multiplier on your practice. All right, so I truly believe this can double your results per minute of practice time. And I know it's worked for people because I've gotten tons of testimonials, people emailing me saying it worked, and I'll show you those testimonials later. So you'll get the 22 practice strategies I use all the time, and you'll get fundamental practice tips. So in the book, there's also tips on just the fundamentals, the 3 golden rules, what I call a piano practice, and some other stuff. And you can literally get started in the next 10 minutes learning all these strategies. All right, so I'm not going to charge you $887, but with all the bonuses I'm going to give you, it's going to be worth as much, but I'm going to give you a super, super, super deal since you watched at the end of this webinar. And I always like doing this because I always say at the beginning of these webinars, look, put your phone away, eliminate distractions. I want to see who has the guts, who has the mental focus and the determination to actually watch the whole webinar. And I know in today's day and age, it's tough. So people that actually make it all the way through, I'm like, these people really want to learn, I'll give them a special deal. So you get the ebook, which usually sells for $25 on my website. You'll get the video lessons. Now the video lessons on my website are $34 a month, which means it's going to be over $400 a year to get access to these lessons. But I'm going to throw them in free with a deal for a one-time payment of much less than this. I'm going to throw on a bonus chapter on playing by ear and a bonus chapter on sight reading. Also, you're going to get the Lightning Fast Piano Scales ebook, which is an ebook just on to dominate your piano scales and practice strategies similar to the ones I taught you above, but focused on getting your scales faster. Then we're going to give you the audiobook. And the audiobook, if you don't have time to read books nowadays, you can listen to it while you're driving to work or something like that, And the Ultimate Piano PDF Pack. This is just an ultimate pack of cheat sheets, scale fingerings, chords, what chords are in what key, a bunch of music theory stuff, different training plans and stuff like that. So you get the PDF pack and you get me as an email piano coach. Meaning if you try some of this stuff and it's not working for some reason, you're confused on something, you can always email me and I'll email you back with why it's not working and how you can fix it. I want to be with you every step of the way. Now if you add all this stuff up, oh shoot, I keep skipping slides. If you add all this stuff up, it's going to come out to $887. Now, I'm not going to charge you that much. I'm not going to charge you even half of that, which would be $400. I thought about doing the $97 thing. I'm not even going to charge you that much. I'm not even going to charge you the $25 that it costs for the ebook typically on my website. I'm going to give you $10 off. From that, which is only $15, you get access to all of the book and all these bonuses. All you have to do is go to bestpianoclass.com/supercharge bonus deal if you're interested. And this is 100% risk-free. Look, I run an honest piano business, and I know there's a stigma of buying things online where, you don't know if it's actually going to be good. So I want you to get results. If you don't get results, email me within 60 days, and I will give you 100% of your money back. All you got to do is email me, Zach@bestpianoclass.com. And look, I'm not, some guy in his mom's basement scamming people. I have 2 YouTube channels with over 10,000 subscribers. I'm not going to risk those and my reputation on, I'm going to, try to steal people out of their money. I'd get tons of bad reviews. It's not worth it. So I want to just make sure, you really will get your money back if you ask for it. If you really don't think like the book was worth it to you. And so all you have to do to get the book is click now below. I'll have the link, and you can get the book and all the bonuses. Now I want you to think, even if you only learned one strategy, now there's 22 strategies, and they all get results, I promise you. But even if you just learned one strategy that could significantly improve your efficiency, would it be worth a $15 investment? Even if you could only 1.5 times. Now I really honestly think you could double, even 2 times, 3x or 4x your practice results, like we talked about before, if you're not using these strategies already. But would that be worth it? Even if you could only 1.5x your practice time for $15. If it is to you, all you got to do is click now below and sign up. All right, so here's exactly how you get it. You just go to this website or click the link in the description. You click the pay button, send your $15, and you get instant access. You get your download to your ebook and your bonuses, and you can start learning instantly. I'll show you exactly where to go, just so there's no confusion. So you simply, if you click the link, I'll have it in the description if you're watching it on YouTube or below somewhere. All you have to do is go to this page. Here's you're in the right spot because it says webinar special bonus deal. Now this page just has more info in the book. There's testimonials. This is my professor actually at university where I attended, and he gave me a testimony and a couple other people that have actually used this and implemented it and got the results. And it's just more info on the book. So if you want the deal, all you got to do is click get your ebook here. And then you'll notice you get that all for $15. So it's it's a lot less than the actual price of the book. And you just fill out your information and you hit submit, and then you will get the download instantly and you can start learning this stuff right away. All right. So remember, just to clarify, you get the ebook, you get the video lessons, you get the bonus chapter on playing by ear, you get the bonus chapter on sight reading, you get the piano scales ebook, the audio book, the PDF pack, and access to me as an email piano coach. $887 value. This is over 90% off at $15 you can get it for. So click below now or go to bestpianoclass.com/supercharge bonus deal and get your copy today. Thanks a lot for watching. I love doing these webinars. I hope you got a lot out of it. And peace out and happy practicing.